This is a Headgum podcast.
I think the boundary is further than we currently have it. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
Like,
I think there's more room.
We could
You think there's
move
room?
the boundary.
I think we can move the boundary. You've never been in my home.
And you have never been in my
I want
home.
to go into your home. I want you to come into my home.
Okay.
This is
I'm just
wow.
okay. Hi, Liz Feldman.
Hi, Jessi Klein.
It's me, Jessi Klein, talking to my very good friend, Liz Feldman.
Liz Feldman.
It's been a minute. Before we even
It
get
has.
into anything, I bought a new water bottle.
You have it's got a floral,
Okay.
sort of leafy design on it.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
quickly?
Yeah,
And this is not an ad, as
Oh.
you'll see, because I'm not even sure I like this.
because we've never made $1 off of the show.
No one,
that's important.
No
to start
one is
with.
asking for sponsorship.
No one
spots.
cares. Yep.
But anyway, I've been using these plastic ones and they always break. And then I reached a breaking point myself.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm getting a new water bottle. And I'm like, people seem to like this Hydro Flask. Looked for this Hydro Flask and there were about 6 colors.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people have this one.
Okay.
You're like, speed it up. Anyway, and then I saw this patterny one. And I thought, I'm going to take this risk.
Okay.
Even though it feels a little, is it a little Burning Man? Is it a little Cocapelli? Is it a little
Well, those are two different things.
Putumayo?
First of
For
all,
those in the know?
Burning Man and Cocapelli are completely different things.
You don't think they're related?
Absolutely not.
Really?
No.
Okay.
There's a Venn diagram in there somewhere,
Venn.
but it's very minimal. I think that, to me, like Cocapelli is almost like pre-Burning Man. You know what I mean?
I mean, do you want to say, and this is a test for you, because I obviously know. Do you want to just clarify that you know exactly what Cocapelli
How
is?
fucking dare you? Wow.
Just to say, like, what is Cocapelli?
Based on the looks on the much younger engineers and producers on our show, I can tell you that they have no fucking idea
Idea
what
what we're talking about? Cocapelli?
Nope, they're just,
I feel like I know what Coca-Cola
it's like a little guy.
I know,
And
but,
he's like maybe playing some sort of lute or flute.
but is it?
Oh,
what is-
that guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't really know this
Hey,
guy.
Tim.
Huh? That guy?
That's Bill Clinton playing the sax in the 90s is what
It's
you were
like
doing.
it's like it's almost got like he's got like a little hunchback.
He's got
and
a hunchback
And
and,
he's
like,
like
some spikes on the
kind of
back.
looks like the
Yes.
Dave Matthews Band logo.
Yes, it's very,
Yes.
it's,
I'm
See-
sorry. I thought we were talking about the backpack company.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
We're talking.
Sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
but
Go ahead.
what I meant about Cocapelli is, yes, you are correct. It's little hunch over playing
not
a
here.
lute.
I'm
Not
not
to
here.
be this guy, but I was also correct.
But here was my question, and
Yeah.
is it supposed to be some sort of ancient spiritual god? Is it like a known, is it like an actual spiritual entity in the
First
world?
of all, I love that you weren't even sure that I knew what it was, and now you're asking me what the historical
Well, because
origin is.
I was nervous that I didn't want to disrespect if Cocapelli is actually like a real
Thomas,
indigenous spirit.
he doesn't even know how to spell it.
Or
so,
if Cocapelli is just something that was invented by white hippies.
I'm
in
just
like
wondering now if like is there some sort of Mandela effect happening with
think there
Cocapelli?
might be a
where it's
Mandela
like
effect.
it's really just like a little cartoon somebody drew once, and now we're like making it feel like it has a whole
Thousands
other
of years
story.
old.
Yes.
It seems like that is the case.
We want to talk about our friends and neighbors growing up in
our
life.
neighbors and friends.
Not the show.
But sometimes never the twain shall meet.
Sometimes never the twain shall meet. And we wanted to talk about growing. We are both New York City girls.
Yes.
This has been established.
Yes, it has.
And I think it's fair to say that in New York City, as a rule, you don't get to know your neighbors, and you can live next
absolutely
door
not.
to the same people for
Your entire life.
decades.
Yep.
Your life.
And you'll know their names,
Maybe
what they do for a living, and that is about it.
what they do for a living.
Well, I knew what my neighbor did for a living because he was a dentist and his office was in the basement.
Oh, okay. That's a big tell.
There was
Okay.
literally a sign.
There was a sign that
that
said, your neighbor's a dentist.
Hi, I'm a dentist.
But like, you never spoke to that person.
No, it was a very weird thing. So I grew up in what I would call like a conformity of houses, like a row of houses that were all the same.
A conformity of houses.
conformity
like a murder of crows.
Like a murder of crows.
Okay.
And I've mentioned before that it was sort of, my house was sort of a, hate to say it, Cosby style situation
Not your fault.
where we shared a wall with this other family, and that was the dentist. And except when I say other family, I don't mean like a nuclear family. I mean that I grew up next to an adult brother and adult sister who lived together.
Ooh, okay.
And he was a dentist and she was an I'm not sure what she did.
Okay.
And they lived in this house with their blind aunt.
That's a curveball.
Yep. And all I know is that his name was Rusty.
Rusty.
And her name was Aphrodite.
I'm going to start. I don't know if I want to start crying really hard or laughing really hard.
I thought they were
Rusty,
married.
Aphrodite,
And their
brother
blind
and
aunt.
sister and blind aunt.
Yes. And he was the neighborhood dentist. And I always thought they were married. I didn't know they were brother and sister till I was like 10 years old. And then when I was getting my hair cut one day at the local salon,
Sure.
where everybody got their hair cut in Brooklyn, thank you. There were rumors that Rusty was gay, which starts to make a little bit.
That's actually making me
of
feel better.
sense.
That's actually making me feel better.
Then one night, I was about maybe 14 or 15 years old, and there was like some sort of car accident in front of our home. Everybody was okay, but we ran outside, and Rusty ran outside in a robe, and another man ran outside after to see what the commotion was.
Okay.
And that was the first gay couple I had ever seen in my life.
I mean, or at least the first man with a very close friend
Hey,
who likes to sleep over.
Jessi, I read between those lines.
Okay. And Aphrodite's just sleeping through it.
Aphrodite did not come out. We called her Deity, to be fair.
Deity.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but those were our neighbors. I don't know anything else, about them. We wouldn't like have them over. We didn't make conversation with them.
No, of course not.
No, and we literally shared a wall with them
Yes.
my entire life.
Understood.
Yeah,
Deity, Rusty, blind aunt, dentist, gay.
Yeah.
That's the word cloud.
that's right. Now you lived in an apartment building, so you had a lot
I'll
of
meet
neighbors.
you, Deity, Rusty,
Yeah.
gay, blind aunt, and I will raise you. So and again, I'm lightly scared. There's gonna be some fear today.
Okay.
So growing up, I grew up in an apartment building, 6-flight walk up. And it was New York City in the 80s,
Yeah.
as you are aware. And it was a little wild and woolly.
Yeah, it was pre-Giuliani.
It was a little wild and woolly. And
by the way, it's weird to say pre-Giuliani as like the knowing who Giuliani ended up being.
I mean, another podcast.
A whole other podcast.
No, we should get into it now.
Our fave. I mean, so there were alleyways because it was like 3 buildings with like alleyways in the back. There were you would hear a lot of screams.
Sure. Gunshots?
Gunshots.
Yeah.
It's a whole long story. But anyway, across the hall from us lived this couple who my parents still live next to. And we referred to them as CBG. Well, we referred to her as CBGB.
Sure.
And I'll call him Bob. That's not his real name.
Okay.
They are insane. They were in a feud with our other neighbor. So there's like 4 apartments on this floor, on the landing. But he somehow is in a feud with, what did I say? Bob and CBGB.
Mm-hmm.
At some point when I am a child, I come up the stairs one day and a big red cross has been drawn on our friend neighbor's door.
Whoa. Okay.
And a pig face.
Wow.
Another time, this is later, I'm a teenager, I'm coming home at night, and I see CBGB, the woman, standing. She looks crazy. She always looks crazy. They both look really crazy.
Okay.
They are crazy.
Okay.
We hear them screaming all the time.
Oh, cool.
And we've always sort of had a little joke about who will kill who.
Okay. That's hilarious.
Very funny. I see her standing in the lobby, kind of like in sort of a fugue state. And I decide I'm going to walk around the block because I don't want to go in the lobby while she's there.
Smart move.
Just using my,
Yeah.
street smarts. Come back. She seems to be gone. I walk into the lobby. Written in what appears to be blood is
Okay.
Bob's last name
Okay.
on the floor of the lobby.
Okay, great.
I was terrified. That's the vibe of the neighbors.
Yeah.
All this to
Okay.
say,
Okay.
historically and in my muscle memory is the idea, and I think for you as
Same.
well as New Yorkers, that we don't get to know our neighbors.
Not necessary.
not necessary and maybe not a good idea.
Maybe not a good idea. Better because you're so close in proximity.
You're
just
so
better to
close.
keep that boundary up and as strong as possible.
Up and as strong as possible. And yet, a few years ago, I moved into a house on a block at the same time that someone else was moving into their house on the same block.
Dying to know who it is.
Should we introduce today's guest?
I can't wait.
Okay. Today's guest is a hilarious actor and comedian who played the unforgettable character Jonah on 7 seasons of Veep.
So good.
So good. He also stars as Sasha in the hit new Netflix show Nobody Wants This. Tim Simons, you're here to make friends. Welcome.
Can I tell you that when they announced, I didn't know that the show was going to be called that.
Yes.
And everybody was like, oh, here's the name of our show. You know how like the cast does that stuff?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got to like, do a thing. Like, like here's the date, here's the name.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what I actually wrote, which was, I really hope critics like this show because if not, we are going to get dog fucked into the ground.
Dog fucked into the dirt and earth.
Yes.
It's a daring title. Daring
I
title.
had the same concern for you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Nobody wants this. It's right there.
It's right there.
It's right there. Unless they were like, we're going to make it so obvious that like even the hackiest TV critic wouldn't do it. You know what I mean?
I just feel like TV critics will do the lowest hanging common denominator always. And when you see shows getting, how did you put it? Dog fucked?
Dog fucked into the ground.
Dog fucked into the ground because the title was like the best thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then you're like, isn't. Like they love to roll around in it. So really glad it worked out.
Yeah, really, you really sort of dared them and you won the dare.
You know
won.
what? I stared them down.
You stared them down.
You dog fucked them.
I dog fucked them
Every
into the ground.
TV critic got fucked like a dog into the ground. Now, will you be hearing from the publicist for the show? Perhaps after this airs being like, why did you have to hit the TV critics so hard? But you know what? It's going to be fine. Do we start
I feel like maybe we should start with how we
with
met.
the origin of how we met? This is 15 years ago?
It's got to be
more recently than you want it to be.
way more recently than you want it to be, but I feel like 15 is too much.
Long. Maybe a decade.
I feel like maybe a decade.
A decade
I
ago.
feel like, so I think Veep had been on for maybe 3 years.
Sure.
And I feel like this came up in conversation like a week ago. I don't know how. I feel like NBC realized, or whatever network this was.
It was NBC.
It was?
Yes, it
They
was.
realized that they had the rights to something called the American Comedy Awards.
Yep.
And they were
Sure.
like,
It was
what
like
if,
why is there no Oscars or Emmy for comedy?
just for comedy? And
Yep.
they were
It
like,
was like, talk about nobody wants this.
talk about getting dog fucked into the ground.
Yeah, dog
So-
fucked right into the ground.
So we met because Matt Walsh and I were like presenters of an award at this like revamped American Comedy Awards.
It was revamped American Comedy Awards, and I had at a time in my career when I was like, did someone just throw a scrap of chum into the ocean? I'll go get it because I'm desperate. So I had been tapped to write on the American
course.
Comedy Awards along with a
Listen.
few others.
Yeah.
It was like a week-long
Fun gig.
job. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, sure.
You go to New York, right? Were you living in New
I
York
was
at the time?
still living in New York at the time.
Okay.
But then the other draw was that the big honoree getting the Lifetime Achievement Award at the end of
Yes.
the first and last ever American Comedy
I'm
Awards
so afraid
was
of where this is going.
comedy legend Bill Cosby.
Comedy legend Bill Cosby.
And I will say it was comedy legend Bill Cosby. This is probably less than a year before
Oh, my.
Hannibal Buress.
I think Hannibal Buress was 5 weeks later.
I think it was about
Wow.
5 weeks later.
It was very fast.
It was
And just
very
to
fast.
just to fill people in who don't know what you mean by Hannibal Buress is a great comedian who then called Bill Cosby out on stage and was really the first person to sort of whistleblow about
in a very public way. Because
way.
there had, of course, been slight whispers.
So many
for
whispers,
years. But this was a
person, who people love and respect, Hannibal, really calling out Bill Cosby.
Yeah, he was like, how can he be so on his high horse when he has in fact been drugging and raping women for years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tim and I are involved in this honoring of Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Yeah, no, that's a great thing to be associated with, I think, just on your resume.
Sure. I was like, I gotta, what do I put on LinkedIn?
It's Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby.
I mean, here's the thing. He was a great comedian.
Yeah.
And the influence of so many other great comedians. And at the same time, doing absolutely horrific things.
Yeah.
Really bad things.
Really hard to sort of parse that one out.
Really, really hard to parse that one out.
So we met at that. I remember that it was one of those award shows where they tell you ahead of time if you've won or not, so that they'll get people to show up.
Yeah,
but nobody told Matt and I that. So the whole night we were like, maybe Veep's gonna win. And then at one point, Amy Poehler came by, and she had a bit for when Parks and Rec won.
Oh my
And she was
God.
like, hey, so when we win, we want you guys. And Walsh and I were like, oh, yeah, of course, when you guys win.
And then you're like,
That was how we found
are
out.
we being dog fucked?
But at the end of the night, Bill Cosby comes out, gets introduced by Chris Rock.
I believe that is correct.
And then he does like they're like, we want you to reflect on your career. And how he reflected on his career was describing exactly how he got the Philadelphia club promoters to pay him $600, about how he would like never leave a gig without the money. It was like, they owed me $628.73 and I left with $600. That was the whole speech. And then we all went up and like shook hands with him. They were like, go on stage. Yeah.
Can we just say one other thing about
Yes.
the speech, which was, it was like, reflect on your career. You are the honoree. We're thinking it's 10 minutes. He talked for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
About getting a check for $600.
Well, there was more to it than that. I remember the check story, but it was like he went on for 45 minutes. This is at the end of a 2-hour, 2.5-hour show, to the degree that the producers were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I will just say my experience with Bill Cosby that week was... This show has taken a real turn.
It really has.
But just to say, we didn't know what we didn't know. Bill Cosby's going to be here. That's exciting. And then one day the producers are like, he's going to come by and meet the writers. And we're like, hey, look at us. And Bill Cosby comes over and we're all, it's really hard because we grew up on Bill Cosby.
I know. I mean,
He's
my
our daddy.
father showed me his, I think that the first comedy special I ever saw was
Chocolate Cake.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
And he was like a little arrogant. And he was like shaking your hands. He's like, tell me your names and where you each went to college.
Oh, okay.
And we did not love that. Just because, like, why do you need to know where we all went to college? Anyway, and then we did that show. You and I met.
Yeah.
I was like, and I knew Matt. And I was like, Tim's lovely. He's so funny. And then about 10 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Buy this house. Doing a little construction in the house. See, there's another house 2 doors down. Oh, who's in that house? I was like, oh my God, it's my old friend who also helped elevated Bill Cosby, the rapist. It's Tim Simons.
It's television's Tim Simons.
Tim Simons.
Can I say, I know you guys have questions. I think this is explaining a little bit.
Oh, say more.
Say more.
We are very friendly.
We're very friendly.
But I sense a hesitation, not with me personally, not like you're like, I'm not gonna. I can see how you were raised to be very wary of neighbors. You know what I mean?
Well, can I say back?
Yeah.
First of all, love your new window.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, honestly, the way I was going to start all this was by saying, so I grew up with the creepiest neighbors. Then, in terms of my relationship with you, Tim, as my neighbor, I feel like, if you don't know who the creep is in a room, look left, look right. Oh, honey, is it you? Because I'm like, I feel like I always just want to talk to you about, like, love your new window when you were first moving in and you guys were painting different options for your door on the wall, your door color. Yeah. And I was like, I kind of want to text him, like, which you picked the one I liked. I just feel like you picked the best one. I love your door color. Now, are you painting? But anyway, I just have like, I know a lot about what's going on in your house. I'm sure you know bits and bobs about my house. But then I was like, am I creepy I would love to be friends. We acknowledge each other as neighbors.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, does everyone just want to have a slight boundary with a neighbor? Because where does it end?
I think I like the idea of having boundaries with my neighbors. Annie and I, my wife, who you know.
Yes, lovely
who you
neighbor.
know.
Lovely neighbor.
Lovely neighbor. Sometimes I like a community. I like a standing around the house, in the front of the house. Oh, I was taking out the garbage, but then I saw Jessi. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then
sure,
we
sure.
talked for 5 minutes. I love that.
Love that.
Sometimes Annie will, and she will like be telling the Gelson's cold meats lady.
I was waiting for when this would get to Gelson's.
About like when the doctor's appointments are, and I'm like, this is honey, I love you, but this is too far.
I'm jealous she's established that relationship with the meat lady.
Oh,
at
she's
Gelson's.
established.
You could have that
You
relationship.
could have
with the
that.
meat lady.
I think no. I just want to let you know.
Okay.
I want to let you know that I love nothing more than to stand in front of my house and talk to my neighbors.
Okay.
I love having a little cup of coffee, a little cup of tea, sitting out there. Maybe you just like threw
You
your
do
little,
have a chair out there sometimes.
yeah.
Is that
I
for
mean,
that?
It's kind of like, sit out in the sun with a dog. But honestly, if people walk by, it's great.
He wants to. It sounds like he's interested
I mean,
in being friends with his neighbors.
we have, I will say, I feel like I should know where you're from, but I don't.
Okay, I grew up in Maine.
Okay, right. Yes, I did know that.
That makes sense with the friendliness.
Well,
Oh,
I was
yeah,
going
no,
to
it's
say,
a-
yeah.
what is your experience like with a relationship to neighbors having grown up in Maine? Was it like, we all know each other, the doors are open, we're going in and out?
It was kind of we're going in and out.
Yeah.
We're going in and out.
I think there were like definitely families that lived on our block that like the front door of your house would open and they would come in without knocking.
Oh,
There
wow.
were people that we were that close with.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
That's
Yeah.
such a different way to
very
grow up.
different way to grow up.
It
Yeah.
was. There were also families that we didn't know as well. There were families that we didn't like. They did not have that privilege. But it was such a small town.
Right.
You kind of couldn't be afraid
Right.
of talking to people
Right.
because if not, you would never talk to anybody.
Yeah, because there's like, how many people are in the town?
2,000 people.
Oh,
That's
my
a very
goodness.
small town.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably had 2,000 people in your building.
On the
I
street,
mean,
on the street at the very
yes,
least.
Yes,
yeah.
the vibe. Yes.
Like, and so I think there was that thing of like when I ended up moving to cities, I am, I think, still in a lot of ways very naive, but I also was somewhat realistic, and that I am also like, I kind of value my own little private time. I value my own little space.
Yeah.
And so I do kind of contain both of those things of like, oh, if I get to know my neighbor and we become really good friends, that means I'm never going to have private time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so there is that thing about like being guarded enough
Yes.
to like make sure that you're safe and you can protect stuff, but then also being like, I like standing out in front of the house and having a cup of coffee.
Tim, what I'm hearing, and
Therapist
Jessi,
Liz?
yeah, and Jessi, what I think Tim is trying to say,
Okay, I'm listening.
is that he loves being friendly with you as his neighbor,
Same.
and Tim, I think what Jessi's trying to say is, hey, same.
This is great.
And Jessi, what I think Tim is trying to say is,
Wow.
where
Wow.
your relationship is as friendly neighbors is great. But perhaps if it were to go any further, you might end up sort of blurring that boundary that seems to be really working for both of you.
Well, this is what
I think the boundary is further than we currly have it. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
like.
I
we
think
could
there's
move-
more room.
We could.
You think there's
move
room?
the boundary?
I think we can move the boundary.
I
You've
would
never
be-
been in my home.
And you have never been in my
I want
home.
to go into your home. I want you to come into my home.
Okay.
This is
I'm just
Wow.
okay. I mean, first of all, there's nothing I love more than seeing someone else's home.
She does love to see inside
I
a home.
love, and you know what I fucking have a big pet peeve about, and this is just separate. If you're having a party in your home,
Yeah.
don't block off any rooms. You know I want to see your whole house. You know everyone wants to see your whole fucking house. Like, especially like fancy rich people where you're like, don't go upstairs. Fucking let us upstairs.
Are
Yeah.
you fucking kidding
Let
me?
us
Of
up
course I'm
fucking
going
stairs.
upstairs.
And I also had this with our across the street neighbors with young kids who are so lovely and
Yeah, yeah,
adore
yeah.
them. Where they moved in, we had chat, hi, and chat every time I see them, and I really adore them. And then there was like, oh, like have you guys come over at some point just to like have a drink, say hi. And they were like, we'd love that. And then just life happened. And then like a year went by.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it too fucking weird now to like that I floated the invite and I was like, I'll follow up and didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe it's for the best.
But then I did.
Just kidding.
I finally
You didn't need
did.
them.
But I think with this conversation, let me officially say, would love to have you guys over for a drink. Come
I would
see
love
the
that,
house, every room.
Wow.
And, I wait for an invite back, I guess.
I'm
feel
really
like he-
excited
I
about
feel like
this.
he already
Okay.
invited.
Yeah.
He said he
No,
wants
no.
you to come.
Okay,
too, so.
we're coming over. But what I think is working here, and what to me is, I think, the model UN for neighbors is like when you meet someone and you get the sense that they have the same boundary you do.
Yes.
So you know that we're
now
like,
you know.
everyone's going to respect the boundary.
That's right.
That's what I'm really, I think, looking for in sort of all humans.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, I would say though, when you're making just like a friend, that's not your literal next door neighbor.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to start that relationship with boundaries because I think like, how do you become really good friends with somebody?
I think a sense of a boundary is something that you sniff out about someone where it's like, we're
That's
advancing at the same rate.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I know what you're saying in that because I think you and I have similar friendship boundaries in that we're like really interested in being friends, but we're also not like calling each other every day.
It's like we're going to call each other the same amount. We
Yep.
understand the cutoff for a text time. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like-
I don't understand that.
Like, you're like,
Okay.
Are you?
I assume that you just have it on silent
Oh, well, you text
or on
late
like
into
or
the
on
night.
like bed mode or whatever. I'm
Bed
sure
mode.
there's a bed. Sure, there's a
Yeah,
better
bed
name
mode.
for
Cosby
that.
mode.
The Cosby mode. When it's in
Cosby mode?
Cosby, I'm assuming you're in Cosby.
Always on Cosby mode.
I'm fucking double texting at 12:30 at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
you text all your friends late at night?
Yes. I don't care what time it is.
And
Yeah.
because you're like, I'm having a thought and I'm texting
Yeah.
them. Now, you know what? In fairness to that, I will say I have that with Celeste.
Oh, that's sweet.
Like last night, Celeste texted me at 1:30 in the morning.
And were you awake and did you receive it and text back?
I was awake at like 3 a.m. and saw it.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes I will do the same. But I think it's because we know
It's okay.
We're both on Ambien.
But I also any of my friends can text me at any moment. I will maybe not see it because I'll be
Right.
sleeping, but anybody can text me at any moment.
Okay.
I think that's a nice
Truly.
thing.
Yeah, I think it's the expectation that is important to like sort of be on the same
Yes.
page about, which
You
is
wanna
that
be on the
you
same
can
page.
text me. I may not get right back to you because I'm sleeping, or like you can call me. It might take me a minute to call you back because I'm, I got stuff going
You've got
on.
stuff. You're a very busy working woman.
Yes, and I've had conversations with friends
Do you
where,
like that I called you a working woman?
I feel like as long as everybody understands what everybody's capacity is.
Yes.
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 And I think this neighbor conversation is really fascinating because I think if more neighbors had this conversation, they might sort of, be able to foster a closer but still healthily distanced relationship.
Well, I do think we have shown up for each other, like in some classic neighbor ways, like
Yes.
literal cup of sugar moments.
Yes. Literal cup of sugar moments.
I think there was a white vinegar I came through.
There was a white vinegar you definitely
for
came in
you
through.
one time.
Might even been a white miso moment.
Damn.
Was there a white miso?
Only in LA
I'm
where
sure
you're like,
I did
my
not
neighbor
come through
will
for you
have
at a
it.
white
Okay, then
miso
maybe that
moment.
was Craig. We have
Maybe-
another
I think
friend.
that
Maybe
might-
Craig maybe came through at the
Your
white
Wow.
miso.
your other friend neighbor.
Seems like
But
Craig.
Craig,
really
no,
came through
Craig
for
is
them.
obvious. I understand where I rank next to Craig.
Do you find yourself when you're making new friends,
Mhm.
sometimes like pushing a boundary really if it's like, I think I might like this person, I'm going to like really push the boundaries on a joke. And I'm not saying like inappropriate, like the kind of jokes like, oh, let's see if they're like in the fucking bullshit Rogan way. Like, I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
maybe this is like too familiar
Mhm.
or just like, I'm going to see if what their sense of
Like
humor
yes.
is like.
testing yes, there's always a testing
Absolutely.
of the humor waters. I
Yeah.
am not a white man.
Uh-huh.
So I tend to tread very carefully, especially because I'm a queer woman and I have a child.
Okay.
And I'm usually meeting like other parents at this point, which are like, those are really kind of the new friends I'm making. So I'm always like a little self-conscious about being too inappropriate in my sense of humor.
Okay.
I'm making air quotes very
you are,
aggressively.
and
very aggressively.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? So I'm always like a little bit like self-conscious about what they might think of me if I make the kind of joke I desperately want to make.
Okay.
So I definitely wade carefully in those waters. But like, for example, we have and are becoming good friends with George's parents.
I'm so excited
George is
about
my daughter's like new bestie / boyfriend ?
Oh.
She's 2.5.
this. Oh.
Oh.
And like we have sussed out they have a great sense of humor collectively, George's parents. And George, we realize, has lots of little girlfriends. We jokingly call George a cult leader. Because the little girls just like follow him around and will do anything he says.
What's up.
So, and they think that's funny. You know, they laugh about that. So we're, you know, it's like, I'll make that kind of joke.
Especially in a world of school parents, a lot of the people that we meet now, like, I am trying to find the sort of funny, edgy person.
Always.
Yeah.
And I do think one of the ways is you kind of lightly test the waters. I don't know what I just did with my finger, and I'm sorry. But one way I find is like, I'll just lightly throw in like the word fuck, not like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Like,
Not being like, I was
that's
fucking last
no,
night.
just like, you know, why the fuck did they make the
I want to fuck my kid's teacher. You know, like that kind of thing.
that
No.
exactly
Well,
you completely
yeah.
we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But just like, oh, why the fuck did they not hand out the parking passes?
Yeah.
And just to see if it, because I feel like that is a little door opener to like, can
It
we
is.
just relax?
It's a gateway word.
It's a gateway word. What do you use as a gateway word?
I think that is a good example. I do think being public facing in my job.
Famous. Deservedly famous.
Yep.
Sorry.
I'm
gonna do it. Fucking famous. Go on.
Culturally
you.
front of house.
Culturally front of house.
Culturally front of house. I think that because of like, basically because of Veep, because there were boundary pushing jokes on that show.
Yes.
And that there might be, in a lot of cases, an assumption already.
Right.
I do feel maybe, but I
Because
guess I
people
don't
are
know
like,
what my move is.
we've already heard him say fuck. Plenty.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
like the character that you played Jonah on Veep, and what a despicable but hilarious character. So I do feel like that grants you a little bit of like leeway.
I remember I was at a party. It was like my kids were there, and I'm not gonna like give too many details, but it was like, you know, like a whatever. It was like a cast
Bill
party.
Cosby's house.
It was at Bill Cosby's
It was his
house.
birthday. It was his 75th birthday.
Do you think
And,
that
like-
we are the podcast that has mentioned Bill Cosby most?
I hope so.
Okay,
Go
cool.
on.
You know that way that like theater kids are all very touchy?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I remember like, and like, I feel like this really tested the waters and it went okay. But I just like turned to two other parents that I didn't know super well. And was like, the fuck kind of dry hump party are we at right now? And like, that landed really well.
Okay, great, because it could have gone either way.
It could have gone real bad,
yeah.
but it landed really well with them. But I feel like you know
killer
pretty-
material.
Thank you.
Killer kid party material.
Yes. I do feel like it becomes pretty clear once you test the waters with some swearing.
Yeah.
If you like some real, like some real gallows, then is maybe the next move.
Yes.
Like some real gallows humor next move.
Yes, it's fuck, then gallows.
And then if they aren't down with the even like the light gallows, it's like, okay, I'm pulling back.
I'm pulling away.
Yeah.
Like I also made a friend at school who we were like becoming friendly, and then we were like having a coffee, like we're on a date here.
Oh yeah.
And like she started casually like throwing into conversation, like she would just refer to like my pussy, blah blah blah, and I was like, great, like. I was like, you're my friend now. Like we can say whatever we want.
Right.
And like you're saying it in a casual way and it's funny. And now we are
So
in
now
love.
you know.
So
Easiest
it's fuck,
way.
gallows, pussy.
To Jessi Klein's
drive a
heart.
fucking
If you
to
wanna
talk
be-
about your pussy.
If you want to be,
Famously.
if you meet Jessi Klein at a party or like through friends or like at a playground, just start talking about your pussy.
Just start talking about your pussy.
And you're
I
fucking
mean,
in.
everybody knows. We have been through a lot on our block.
We have.
I've heard about it. It's pretty pretty intense.
It's intense.
Yeah.
It's intense.
For a pretty calm neighborhood in a pretty like kind of, it feels like suburban, but in the middle of the city. Like it's.
Yeah. We have been through, so we at some point we exchanged numbers.
Mhm.
Collectively on our block, we have been through a home invasion on our block
Yeah.
that did result in a SWAT team
Yes.
breaking into both of our backyards.
Yes.
Wow.
They
Um,
arrested him directly next to our bedroom window.
Jesus. Oh
and I
my
had
God.
no idea this was happening.
You didn't
You,
know?
I will say, I will text you sometimes early in the morning and be like, can you fucking believe? And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. I slept through this entire thing. A
Wow.
full-on fucking SWAT team in the neighborhood.
For hours.
For hours.
With helicopters
above
hovering.
for hours.
Hours.
And-
Do you have an earplug in?
I wear hearing aids. I'm kind of half deaf.
Okay.
So when I take them out, but I also have always been a very heavy sleeper.
Oh, I forgot about the hearing aids.
Yes.
Okay, that helps me understand. Because
That
it
helps
was
a little bit.
very loud.
It was very loud, but also no matter what, even when I was like younger and my hearing was like a little bit better than it is now, I slept through fire alarms in my college dorm. Like that was,
Wow.
it was just, I
Well, as
sleep
your
heavy.
neighbor now, I'm more aware. I will
Yeah,
come
you
bang
have
on
to-
your door.
Gotta
Please
bang on
come
his
bang
door.
on, please.
Save his life.
So I like,
Welcome.
I hear Annie like at the top of the stairs and she's saying like, Tim. And I like go out and I'm like at the bottom of the stairs and I'm looking up and she's like, there's some guy broke into like, there was like a home invasion. Then they just caught him like right next to our,
In your
bedroom.
yard.
And I was like, oh, so they caught him? And
Oh
she was
my
like,
God.
yeah. And I was like, all right. I just
Husband
went back
of the
to
event
bed.
protector.
Oh, wow.
I went back to bed.
She's like, I've been shaking in fear and helping the police for hours.
But I mean, like, you know, they just like had the dogs back there. I don't know.
Oh,
they
they-
caught him. What the fuck was
Wow.
I supposed to do?
Liz,
Want me to like,
SWAT team banged on my door.
I
at
remember.
3 a.m, and I do still have on my phone images of the German shepherds that they released into the yard on a
Yeah.
manhunt.
Yeah.
yes.
So that was the thing we went through.
Okay.
That was the
just,
thing we went
That was just
through.
another night of good sleep for Tim.
Yeah, Tim sleeping like a baby.
I truly, everyone in the neighborhood the next day, and not just on our block, everyone in the neighborhood that we saw, it was like, I got no sleep last night.
No,
because
it
those
was
helicopters.
all
And I
night
was
long.
like, guys, I'm 100%. I'm 10 out of 10.
Slept like a white man.
And literally,
Slept like
it
a white man.
happened like at the time, our bed was arranged as such that like this is my side of the bed, that's Annie's side of the bed. There, the window is right here, and he was caught on the other side of that window.
That is remarkable.
Yeah.
And slightly terrifying that you're that deep of a sleeper.
You know what?
Not for you.
Well rested, baby.
You're like, it's this level of being this rested that gets me on all these great shows.
P22.
Oh, I was going to.
She was going to, it's on here. It's on here. P22, which is, of course,
Do you remember the time P22 walked down our block?
Yeah.
just to remind people who don't live in Los Angeles.
Everyone knows.
P22
Everyone knows.
was our most beloved and famous mountain lion that lived in Griffith Park.
Many
that would
years.
sometimes just regale us with his presence on
beautiful,
our
wild
residential
presence.
streets. And he has unfortunately passed away, but we do love and honor
Well,
him.
let's not whitewash that. He was murdered. He was struck by a car.
He was.
R.I.P. R.I.P. We love P22, but I do believe you were the one who texted me about P22 coming down our block.
Yes.
You sent me your security camera footage of P22.
Truly, like one of my most proud LA moments was Annie being like, we have P22 in our front yard walking through on our security cam, a little bit overshadowed by the fact that our friend and neighbor Craig, P22 caught and ate a raccoon in his backyard.
Wow.
You told me
And
about
he-
that.
Huh?
What an
You
honor.
told me about that. Yeah, that's
if you want to go to my Instagram, I'm really not going to be the person that's going to like plug my own Instagram, but I'm
too
only
late,
doing
honey.
it. I'm only doing it
Mid-plug.
for this reason. That if you find me, Timothy C. Simons, I have all of these videos saved so that you can see them.
I did go to your Instagram to try to pull up some of those videos at
And
one
so,
point.
but Craig has like these videos of P22 eating a raccoon, and then he buried the raccoon behind their little shed, like their little office shed.
When you say he, Craig or
The
or
mountain lion.
P22?
Oh, P22 buried the raccoon.
Okay.
And then he fell asleep. And so they
Aw.
called animal control. and he was taking a nap behind the shed. And he was like, so what do I do? Like, how do we get him out of here? And they were like, oh, we can't. Like, it's basically just he lives back here now until he decides to leave.
Oh, wow.
And then they were like, when he leaves, like he had buried that raccoon. They were like, you got to dig up that raccoon and get it out of here because he's going to come back looking for it.
Whoa.
Yeah. But eventually, the reason that he was coming into the neighborhoods and attacking dogs is because he had been hit by this car and he had to go for food that was easy to catch.
Aw.
And so then what ended up
He was
happening
sick.
was he started attacking a bunch of dogs in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
He, I think, had been gone blind in one eye. He was severely injured.
Sweet little P22.
Sweet little P22.
I feel like you guys might live in a vortex. Tim, I couldn't help but notice when Jessi was introducing you that these are 3 of your recent credits. Veep, Handmaid's Tale, and Nobody Wants This.
Little shows.
You can't not make a hit. Do you think of yourself as someone with the Midas touch? Because we hope so, and maybe has something to do with why you are invited on this podcast. Just to bring a little bit of your hit magic.
Little sprinkles.
I mean, that is
Hit
incredible.
sprinkles.
That those are your recent 3 credits, and they're all enormous, iconic shows at this point.
That's very sweet of you to say.
It's true.
It's the truth.
No, I think I think that there is partly skill set and partly just the beneficiary of I have a skill set that leads to that sort of thing, but it's not because of me necessarily. You know what I mean? In that,
Wait,
like,
why?
I feel like I have always, and this is sort of like coming from like my theater teacher in college, because I didn't start acting until I was in college. And then I moved to Chicago, and I was always really attracted to ensemble-based work, like really strong ensemble-based work. And I feel like all 3 of those things
They are big
have
ensembles.
really big and strong ensembles full of people who aren't, full of people who are willing to share spotlight, and knowing that doesn't mean it won't shine any dimmer on them.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Julia is an amazing example of somebody who is so generous with sharing the spotlight and being like, that's a great moment. Take that moment, because she does know, like, eventually
Yeah.
she's not worried about anybody stealing it from her. She's
No.
impossible to
Nor
steal
should she
from.
be.
She's
Yes.
the winningest actress in
Yes.
Yeah.
television Academy
Yes.
history.
And so I feel like it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like they don't all work out that way, but I
these-
feel like
these
they
3
have
did.
a chance. The only way they're going to work out that way is if you have a strong supportive ensemble. And I feel like that's something that I operate well within.
That's a very generous answer.
Oh, thank
It's a
you.
very generous
I'm
answer.
going to tell you this. I collect Blu-rays and 4Ks. And
Okay.
the reason that I'm segueing into this is that there is a podcast that I go on. I've done it for a couple years where I talk about Blu-ray and 4K collecting with Sean Fennessy, who works over at The Ringer.
Yes.
Okay. And so I didn't do it this year. And Tracy Letts, who's an old friend.
Oh, yeah.
Heard of him.
Very talented.
Yeah.
Pulitzer
Doing
Prize winning.
okay.
He is an insane collector.
Oh.
And so I more recently met him working on like an indie movie in like, I don't know, 2013, 2014. We became buddies then. And he went on this like physical media episode of a show and coined a nickname for me that was Hitmaker. And he stuck to the bit so hard that anytime Sean would say Tim, he would go Hitmaker. And he corrected him, and it was such a good bit. And this is, again, just like I'm not normally going to direct you to my Instagram, I will say
But again, it did happen.
that for the last like 12 or 13 years of my life, every nickname that has been directed at me is like Benedict cum in his own hand. You know what I mean? Like the nicknames were such a big thing on Veep that like I am not. Do I really think that's true? No. But if he wants to keep it going, it's like that is kind of nice.
Hitmaker.
Like it's like the first nice nickname anyone has ever given me, and it
but I
actually
also
feels.
think deserves.
I mean, it's just true.
It's
But-
true,
but-
and
yeah.
maybe this podcast, the headline will be special guest, the Hitmaker.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Tim, the Hitmaker Simons.
Tim the Hitmaker Simons. We're happy to keep this going.
Tim, we always end our show asking about what we call your ravioli moment or a great moment in friendship, just a time that a friend showed up for you when you really needed them, maybe even without asking.
Just a meaningful friendship moment that has occurred in your life that you'd like to preserve on this podcast to shout out whomever it may have been.
This is in my head because I actually, for whatever reason, recalled this story over the weekend.
Okay.
And I love little beautiful moments of friendship. That's one of my most favorite things.
I'm so glad you're
I'm also
here.
a person that does believe can't hold on to those things tightly. Like they're fluid. They come and go. Even your very close friends, some days you are closer with them than others.
That's very true.
There was a guy that I knew from college named Chris Grondin. And he was like, so he was more in like the hardcore, like straight edge hardcore scene at my college.
Sure.
And it was like a death metal guy. And we were like, we overlapped, but our circles overlapped, but we weren't close. But we always really liked hanging out with him. Whenever Chris Grondin around, it was awesome. He was the kind of guy, I remember he had a tattoo of a coffin with like a sexy lady laying on top of it.
That's a good tattoo.
It's a good tattoo.
Yeah.
That's a good tattoo.
He had a really good sense of humor. He was really creative. We all loved him. And then he graduated a year before we did. And we had heard all these, he had heard these rumors about Grondin that he had like moved to like work on like an Alaskan salmon boat with like these murderers, like these like released murderers. And we were like, fuck, man, we hope Grondin's doing okay. So I grew up and I went to college at the University of Maine, and every spring, like the last week of school, there was this thing called Chicken Fest, which was like this party that took place in the woods, like down like
what that would take place in the woods?
A party.
Okay.
Like down logging roads, like immensely hard to get to, but it would probably have like 2,000 or 3,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And they would just cook chicken all day, and they had like generators and bands would play, and there was a bonfire. And Chicken Fest fucking slapped. It was the best.
Chicken Fest fucking slapped is the t-shirt I'm making you as a thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. So there is always this bonfire. And so like me and my really good friends were all standing around the bonfire, and all of a sudden like this pathway just opens up for like this, like, you know, all of a sudden people are just like, move aside, move aside, move aside. And at the other end of this thing is a guy on a dirt bike wearing a helmet. And he like revs it a couple times and then just screams toward the bonfire and drives this dirt bike through the bonfire. Absolutely eats shit, just like ass over tea kettle. Jumps up, throws his hands in the air, rips off the helmet, and it's fucking Chris Grondin. It's Chris Grondin, and we all like carried him on our shoulders. And like we were on acid, and we were and like we were drunk, but this was like, I just remember like one of the most beautiful things that I had ever seen, that after like this year of talking about, man, I hope Chris is doing okay. Man, I wonder how Chris is. You know who fucking ruled? Chris Grondin. That he decides to reintroduce himself into our lives by driving a dirt bike through a bonfire. When we got him up on our shoulders, you know what he said? He said, "That's the first time I've ever driven a dirt bike." It was the best. It was the best.
Wow.
So that was a really nice moment of friendship. Yeah.
What a joyful ravioli moment.
Oh my God. You know what? That's an amazing story. And I just had this strong feeling of like, I hope at some point in life there are people sitting around saying, you know who fucking ruled? Jessi Klein. You know what I mean?
That's all we can hope for.
That's all you can hope for.
That is all you can hope for.
Wow.
I hope that I bring like some semblance of that kind of joy to somebody else's life. That
No
if
doubt
one day they were like, you know, it'd be fucking awesome if just like Tim came by
on a dirt bike
and
drove it through fire.
Yeah.
Well, it's never too late.
It's never too late.
There's got to be a dirt bike store around here somewhere.
Tim, is there anything you'd like to mention to our listeners before we say goodbye?
No. Oh shit! Wait.
You know, I was like, I think there is something you're supposed to mention before. You say
yeah.
goodbye.
No, I've heard that you're supposed to plug podcasts on podcasts.
Yes, you are.
You guys should come on.
Done.
We're done.
Okay.
What is it?
It's called Second in Command.
Should we drive there now?
I am actually going there right after this.
Oh my God.
Second in command.
So it's Matt Walsh and I who was on Veep together.
Yep,
During the
so
pandemic. We started it as a Veep rewatch podcast, but now what we do is We have our guest pick a movie that has a president or vice president in it.
Love it.
They watch it. They come in. We talk about it. Tangents are welcome and encouraged.
Sure.
But we try to look at it like the politics of like the internal politics of the movie, and then also like what the external politics of the world, how that may have influenced that movie.
Ooh, I love.
But mostly we are both very dumb. And so if that seems high-minded,
This is fake
trust
news.
me.
Talk about fake news.
Yes.
Fake news.
Yes.
And the name of the podcast is
Second in Command.
and I mean, people can find it anywhere.
Where they
we are
listen?
actually like, we do a Patreon thing.
Oh.
So the first episode.
We're like, tell us, say more.
Yeah, what is that about?
So the first episode of every month, entirely free for everybody to see that. And then after that, the other episodes throughout the rest of the month, you got to subscribe. We do have some bonus content back there.
Everyone should go listen to this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Patreon.com/Second in Command.
There
Okay.
it is.
There it is.
Hey, thanks, Tim.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on social media at Here to Make Friends Pod, and let us know who you think we should make friends with next. Email us at htmfpod@gmail.com. We should probably check that email.
1 million emails.
And you know what? Go out,
And me
a friend,
today, even with your
neighbor, but keep a healthy boundary.
keep a healthy boundary.
That was a Headgum podcast.